I was going to be on this medication, which was like about 5 or 6 different medications and an asthmatic inhaler for the rest of my life. And I was given the medication by the doctor or the surgeon to get it. And I was like, I walked out of, like the doctor didn't tell me, I walked out of the doctor's office and I was like, I'm only 31 years old, you know? I don't want to be on this medication for the rest of my life. Everything is accessible to you, like at your fingertips. And all I'm seeing online, and a lot of the, because I'm a member of many different forums of strength, be it stone lifting or kettlebell lifting or hardstyle, whatever, is people just constantly asking questions. Should I, would I, can I do this? Will I try this? If you put like 115 kilos on a bar, you pick it up with one hand in a deadlift, you know? Yeah. Definitely, you pick it up with 2 hands easy, get it over your head. But I mean, go out and pick up 115 kilos, don't want to tell me what easy it is. It's a totally different experience.
Yeah. Hey, what's up, guys? Thank you for joining me and welcome to the show. It is a true blessing to be able to connect with the top minds in strength each and every week and share stories, insights, and experiences on becoming stronger in every area of our lives. And now I want to do more for you. I want to invite you to join the exclusive private Facebook group of The Strength Connection. In this group, I share the biggest takeaways and lessons from these amazing conversations, as well as training and strength tips for pursuing mastery and fulfillment in life. This group is filled with individuals looking to take full control over their strength in their lives, and it's the perfect space to explore ideas and share your journey. You'll also get exclusive access to the Strength Connection Mastery Seminars. It's a deep dive into physical, mental, and spiritual training that you can begin using immediately. Just go to the Facebook groups, type in the Strength Connection, and you'll be accepted immediately. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you on the inside. All right, and here we are. David, it's so nice to meet you, man, from across the pond. I appreciate you taking the time.
Delighted to be here, Michael. Thank you so much for having me on, man.
Yeah, shout out to Kirsten. She was telling me a little bit about you this weekend and was like, hey, you should reach out to David. I think you guys would have a fun conversation. And
Kirsten is just, she's lovely. She's awesome. She's a great person. You know?
She's great. Oh, and strong as shit right off the bat.
Seriously.
So, unbelievable. But seeing some of the stuff that you have done, you are a crazy dude, man. You have gone through some stuff, I got to tell you. So watching some of the feats and the accomplishments that you've done, you know, really over the past decade in strength that maybe not a lot of people know about, just truly inspiring, and just really excited to hear some of the stories behind, you know, your journey and the work that you put in.
Thanks so much. I mean, it's kind of very flattering. You know, I only started out my journey really about 10 years ago, Michael. Before that, I was just your normal guy, Joe Sixpack, you know, working, just drinking, smoking, and not doing any exercise. And I only got into exercise of any kind just about 10 years ago, you know. So to have done what I've done this past decade has just been it's like a second bite of the cherry for me. You know, it's been a second bite of life.
Wow.
And it's just been fantastic.
Yeah. Well, that's, I think, a good place to just kick this off, just to learn a little bit about you. Like you said, about a decade ago, where it went from really not doing much, you know, doing all the stuff that we say, you know, not to do, all that type of stuff, but then got into a world of, you know, of training and exercise. It's a journey that a lot of people have gone through, but you went to some pretty interesting extremes at the same time in your world. What was it about that last decade that kind of made you transition into this world of more of the health and fitness and strength?
Yeah, do you know what it was almost like an epiphany. It was like my first ever feat, I suppose, or something that I finished was a marathon. I started off running when I was very, very unfit. And I started running and I couldn't run 100 yards to the top of my road because I was so overweight and I was diagnosed with asthma and all this kind of stuff, high blood pressure. And but I went from 100 yards to a marathon in 6 months of training, just of running. And it was like, once I crossed that line, I didn't do it any major time. It was just under 5 hours. I had to walk a little bit of it. But I was like, I've just ran a marathon. And 6 months ago, I couldn't run out of my estate, like up to the top of my road without having to turn around and go home. So that was like this huge epiphany moment. It's like the clouds parted. Oh, what else can you do? You know, I mean, what else can you do? And if you can do that, you know, the sky's the limit, really, you know, because I mean, I know a marathon, a lot of people have done it, but it's difficult. It's a difficult thing to do. And especially from where I started from, of being incredibly unfit. So that started me on the road of literally my mindset from then on has been like, what else can you do? You know, what, and why not try something? Like I've had many people along the way say you shouldn't, or you couldn't, or you won't, or you can't. But for me, it's like, I can. If I put my mind to it, I can do whatever the fuck I like, excuse me out. I can do whatever the hell I like. And it's almost been like proving to myself, I've done all of this for myself, which has been great this past 10 years because I've dipped in and out of different modalities and ways of training, be it kettlebells, be it gymnastic rings training, maces and stone lifting and all that along the way and running. And I've gotten to a pretty decent level at all of these. And it's like, for me, it's if you put the hard work in, if you just put your work in and just stop talking about it and just go out and do it and figure it out as you're going along, that's going to work for me. You know, ask a lot of people questions, video everything.
Yes.
It's just, you can get to it, whatever level you want to. It's up to you, you know, however far you want to push yourself. And I always set myself little goals along the way. So it's like, have an end goal, but along the way have your little ladder steps and hit each step and move on. And that's just what I've done. And it's just that literally I've been putting work in every day and building up and climbing that ladder, you know, and eventually hitting your goal and then moving on to something else. And that's what I've been doing this past 10 years. And it's been absolutely awesome.
Yeah, it's so interesting what you said when you crossed that finish line, and all of a sudden that first thing in your head is that what else can you do? Yeah, it's like I've said that's, you know, there's a great message of, you know, fitness is a lifestyle, strength is, but that short term, like do something that you've thought is impossible at one moment, then that actually go an accomplishment. Like, you know, a marathon, as you said, many people have done it, but you at that point, you know, could run 100 yards. So it's really like an impossible feat at that time. When you do something like that and put yourself in some sort of competition or a deadline on there, it does kind of force a little bit of that urgency to get up. And then all of a sudden, like that can just change you overnight.
It really did. I mean, like when I started running, it was for my health, because I was told by, like, I had young kids at the time, and I was told by my doctor, you got to look after yourself, son. You got to look after yourself or you won't be here in 10 years, you know? Yeah. I was going down a pretty bad road, and I just, it was a wake up call that I needed. Yeah. So from there, was there a message in that of like, that got you into starting a marathon? Like what led you up to that? Was it a doctor's visit, or was it something that was like, I need to make this change? Yeah. Good question. The doctor's visit was, I went to the doctor and I was told by the doctor that I was going to be on this medication, which was like about 5 or 6 different medications and an asthmatic inhaler for the rest of my life. And I was given the medication by the doctor, or the search to get it. And I was like, I walked out of, like, the doctor didn't tell me. I walked out of the doctor's office and I was like, I'm only 31 years old, you know? Yeah. I don't want to be on this medication for the rest of my life. What's my options? And I just thought to myself. So it's like, go get fit and see if that helps. And if it doesn't help, then take the medication and see if you need it, you know? So after, Michael, about 6 weeks of running every day and going from that 100 yards, all of a sudden my blood pressure was coming down, my weight was coming down, my acid reflux was gone, my asthma was gone. I wasn't asthmatic, I was just incredibly unfit. And all of that was gone within about 2 months, you know, or very, very, very lowered. You know, it was just, I was so unfit. And the doctors, like, a lot of them should be just saying, hey, look, lad, go out and go for a run, or go out and go for a walk, or go out into nature, or, you know what I mean? Stop eating crap food and just, you know, stop minding yourself. Don't just be throwing these pills at people. Because I could have took the other road. I could have gone that way and still be on that medication and maybe not even be here now, you know? That's such a mess. It goes from 6 weeks prior of saying you need to be on all this stuff for the rest of your life to 6 weeks is a short period of time. All of a sudden, such crazy changes that are going on in your body. Like that's such a crazy message. It was a revelation. I mean, it was like, especially the asthma, you know, I was convinced I had asthma. I was buying these inhalers, and I went out and I started getting fitter, and it was like, all of a sudden, like all this respiratory problems I had were gone. I don't think I had asthma. I just think I had a bad diagnosis, you know, but I mean, I was just told that I needed to be on all this stuff, and just getting fit was, like, mentally and physically, was the beginning of a fantastic 10 years, you know. But to anybody out there, you know, in the same situation, like I said, I started late enough in life, well, late enough, but still in my 30s. Like I was never able to work the fittest before that. You're never too late, you're never too old, you're never too unfit to start, you know, and set yourself a little goal and go do it. Yeah. When you go back to thinking of that 6 week mark right there, and I mean, it's been a long time since you've been that. Obviously, you've grown and you've changed quite a bit in that time. But was your mindset in that, like, what was that process like of that, like, first 6 weeks? Was it, I'm sure it was very challenging physically, but mentally, was it, I just need to do this for another day? Or did you have this kind of big long-term thought process, like, no, I'm going to build myself into this marathon? No long-term process. It was immediate. It was myself It was that self-diagnosis that I done of just to get fit. But as I started getting fitter, I just started feeling better. And again, I didn't realize how bad I was feeling until I started feeling good. I know that sounds ridiculous, but I started feeling healthy. I started feeling strong, and I started feeling, I started feeling fit. I was like, this is how you should feel. This is absolutely awesome. I wasn't getting out of breath running around after my kids. I could walk upstairs. I could just do all this normal stuff that you take for granted easily, so easily. And after that 6 weeks, it was like, all of a sudden, then I took all these readings and I'm feeling better. I'm like, no, this is it. I'm never going back to that guy who I was. The first 2 weeks, obviously, of anything are difficult. Like I said, I ran 100 yards. I had to come home. I mean, that was tough mentally to not be able to get out of my state and have to walk home, like needing for breath, But it was just to say, just keep going, just keep going. Go out again tomorrow. Like I went out in the morning when people couldn't see me because I was kind of paranoid. People seeing the fat guy running. Yeah. But used to go out in the morning and just gradually got better, and then gained the confidence to go out running during the day. And then all of a sudden you start feeling great. And then all of a sudden you hit a goal. You hit a 5K. Like I ran 5K. I can't believe it.
Yeah.
And then from there, then it was like, okay, how far can I go? And then it was 10K. And once I got to 10 and 12K, that was around like December, January of 2012. The very first marathon in my county of Waterford was being held the following June the 18th, which also happened to me about my birthday. So I was like, this is a sign from the gods,
There it is.
Ever in my county, and it's my birthday, and I got 6 months to train for it. So let's do this. So went in for it and done it then, and that was the beginning.
Yeah. Something you said there of like, you don't realize how bad you're feeling until you feel good. I think that's it's such an interesting thing. Just as people, we get so easily adapted into our environment. Like I always remembered when I was younger, I was a pretty heavy smoker in my teenage years and into my early 20s. And you don't realize how potent of a smell that is of cigarette smoke until you stop smoking, and how much everybody else can smell around you. And until like I was out of it for a bit, and then all of a sudden I could smell it from yards and yards away. I was like, oh my gosh, like I've been living in this, like this smell. Exactly. And it's like, you can do that in a lot of different things, and, from just an overall feeling of it. But it's like, it's like, you might be so short. It might be such a short period of time into you feeling really good. Then you'll realize how bad actually you felt. And then that might be the epiphany that you just never go back to again.
And that's been the last 10 years for me. That's been it. From after that 6 weeks, I'm like, I'm never going back to that. And thankfully, not only have I not come back to that, I've done some pretty cool stuff over the past 10 years, just by saying to myself, what can you do next?
Yeah, I want to get to that now. So you finished this marathon, and then did you continue with marathon training for a while, or like when is it that you got into, I know you went into the GS world and did a lot of work, and was that the next evolution of your training? Yeah.
What happened was in the marathon, because like I wasn't doing any strength work, I was just going out running, Forrest Gump for 6 months. I lost a lot of weight, but I didn't have any muscle tone, because I never trained in my life, so I did get injured about mile 19 or 20 in the marathon, just a bit of a knee niggle, and had to walk the last 6 miles. So I was out of it for about, I'd say I was going to be out for about maybe 6 to 8 weeks with the knee. So through a chance meeting in work, I saw a guy come in with a kettlebell logo on his t-shirt, and he was just starting a gym or reopening or rebranding his gym, and as a kettlebell gym. And I was like, that's really cool looking. No, what's that? He said, it's a kettlebell. And I was like, what's a kettlebell? He's like, come out and I'll show you. So that was the start of it. So we went down, we done kettlebell classes, which, just normal HIIT classes or like endurance classes or fitness classes, like swinging a 12 kg kettlebell. And
yeah.
Feeling like, oh, this is great, really getting the burn off it or whatever. All of a sudden, I saw after the classes, there was a kettlebell sport class in this particular gym. And I remember stopping back just to watch these guys. And I was like, here I am swinging like 116, and I'm really feeling it in my hamstrings for a few days afterwards. And these guys are long cycling or jerking like 224s, for sets of 10 and 12, like minute on, minute off. And I was like, these guys are the Avengers. These guys are super good. How can you do that? I was fascinated. Like, how can you, they're not big looking lads, how are they doing this? So I asked, is there any chance I could try this? after about 6 months of doing the fitness classes. And he was like, yeah, sure. Says your body type seems to like really fit the sport. You know, you got long levers, you got a sharp body. So I think we'll be able to get good rest and acquisition, blah, blah, blah. So I started off training with the 216s. Mm-hmm. And I done my first comp, I think, at the start of 2013, which was a 5-minute competition, long cycle. And I won that competition. It's just a normal national competition. Mm-hmm. And I won that. You know, I wasn't any major national. It was just like a fun 5-minute comp, introductory comp.
Yeah.
But I got hooked. I was like, I met all the people. I was watching all the guys. Like we were in the novice category. I was watching the guys in amateur lifting 224s. And at that time, there was even 3 guys lifting 232s. Mm-hmm. In Ireland, I was like, this is incredible. Yeah. And that year, there was the Europeans, the actual European Championship being held at like 40 minutes down the road from me in Wexford. And I went in as a spectator and got absolutely hooked just watching these guys, watching the Russians, watching the Kazakhs, the Ukrainians, the Italians, all these top lads lifting 232s, you know, for 10 minutes straight, whether it be jerk or snatch or clean and jerk. I was like, that's just amazing. You know what I mean? How could the human body do that for 10 minutes? You know, lift clean and jerk 232 kilo bells. You know, non-stop. I mean, and just keep going. You can't put them down. You just have to keep repping it. I was like, I want to do that. Yeah. That immediately got me hooked. That's my goal, is to get to 232s.
Yeah.
And live for my country professionally. Yeah. So thus started the kettlebell sport journey, which went from 216s, like I said, that 5 minutes, to the following, I think it's 2014, I got on the Irish team, which was lifting 224s. And that was 224s long cycle for 10 minutes. And I remember I had to get 64 reps to get on the Irish team. You had to make a rank. Mm-hmm. And I got 64 reps. And I actually thought, with about 3 reps to go, I thought I was going to die. But 3 reps to go.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
It was shocking. It was really bad. But I just had the will. The mind was there to do it. I remember people saying, even still, it's like, that's the gutsiest performance I've ever seen, because I've never seen anybody suffer that much and still keep going. But I got the 64th rep up and I got on the Irish team. Mm-hmm. And that was massive. I mean, I'm on a national team, you know, at amateur level. And 2 years ago, I couldn't run 100 yards. It was like, that was a quick turnaround, wasn't it? You know, so.
Oh my God, that's amazing. Yeah, just to finish the long cycle with 24s is an accomplishment in itself, just to hold them up. And, you know, as I mentioned a little bit before, like I've known some of the GS world from some people that I've connected with, especially on the podcast. I got to meet, connect with Bill Esch and Mike Salemi and that Denis Vasilev. And great master of sports and stuff. And, you know, from the hardstyle world, like 5-minute snatch test, that's enough in many, many different circles to work with. But to do a 10-minute test, you know, like that and build it up. Yeah. Just the guts. What was your mindset through of that, like, time, you know, from there? Was there a point when you were like, I don't know if I can complete this, or like, and you like got that second wind, or what was that like?
I had just pure obsession with kettlebell sport. I literally got consumed by kettlebell sport for the last, I think, 8 years. I delved deep into technique, really, really delved deep. Messaged everybody, including all the lads you were talking about. Messaged everyone, videoed, sent on messages. You know, you might send out 10 messages, you might get 2 or 3 back, or someone will come back with a tip. I went to workshops and I just put in the work. You know, I mean, I work a full-time week, but I mean, I'd go out like 4 or 5 days a week out to the gym, spend 2.5 hours out there working on technique, working on endurance, and really delve deep into it and put a lot of work into it. And like, I had this goal, like this driving goal was to get Master of Sports to lift on the 232s, and there was nothing going to stop me. There was nothing going to stop me. You know, I didn't care. Like this was it. So pure 100% obsession with kettlebell sport drove me on, and a real, which I never thought I had before, a real iron will to just do it and just to finish. You know, death before dishonor kind of thing was like, no, I'm not going to stop. I don't care how much it hurts. I'm going to keep going, you know. Mm-hmm. So then, just getting comfortable, being uncomfortable, and getting into that mindset. And because it's a tough sport, you know, it's a very attritional sport. It's a damn tough sport. And like when you're lifting, even like 220s, you know, you're starting off, every time you jump up that 4 kilo weight, like 220s was tough for 10 minutes, 24s. And then like, you know, 228s and 232s, to get up to that was, it's a shock to the system each time you do it. But I think my work I've done on my technique and efficiency over grunt, you know, just pure efficiency of technique, and trying to be as, you know, as mobile as possible under the belt, so to be able to relax certain muscle groups as I lift. Something I put a lot of work in, and something I released a book on, which got very, very big as well. Mobility for kettlebell sport, how to relax in rack position and overhead, which is the total antithesis of hardstyle, you know. But when you're lifting long sets, you need to be able to relax in certain positions. Or you can't stand there with braced muscles for 10 minutes.
Absolutely.
You have to be able to relax. So I mean, I was like, okay, how do you do it? And pretty much figured it out as I went along with long cycles. And I was like, okay, this is how you do it. This is how you get it. I released a little book out into the world there a couple of years ago. That went really well as well. Yeah, but that's I ramble a lot. Sorry, I talk quite a lot. I'm Irish.
Oh, I love it. The message that I'm getting so much, I think, is so great, is just kind of get into it and just start figuring it out as you go. Yeah. You know, I think that's such an important lesson that we have. Like, so much, like, we're in the information age where you can find out anything that you possibly want about kettlebell sport or marathon running. You can get your book and you can dive into it. But if you just start doing it, you're going to figure it out as you go along. It's like, because I think that's the great thing about the physical side of training, is like, you can practice and like, you can, you know, get all the work in, and you can, you know, do really good, train a few days a week. But by getting into that competition type feel, you know, like seeing somebody going through and realizing that it's possible to take 2 32K bells and keep them up for 10 minutes and do that, actually seeing it and witnessing it firsthand. It's a hard thing to understand unless you put yourself in either seeing it and then putting it through yourself.
That's exactly it. And you got, I mean, like you said, you hit the nail on the head there. And we're in this age where everything is accessible to you, like at your fingertips. And all I'm seeing online, a lot of the, because I'm a member of many different forums of strength, be it stone lifting or kettlebell lifting or hardstyle, whatever, is people just constantly asking questions. Should I, would I, can I do this? Will I try this? And I'll just say to people, just get out and lift. Just get out and figure it out yourself. Everybody's biomechanics are different. Everybody's lever lengths are different. Everybody's endurance is different. Just go out and figure out what your weaknesses are. Once you figure out your weaknesses, make them stronger. And that's it, you know, that's it. Figure out where you're weak, make that stronger, and just keep going, you know, and just go out and fucking do it. Yeah. Stop talking about it. Just go out and lift it, you know. And that's the way I had this past 10 years, and it seems to be doing well, because I, you know, winning world championships, European championships, you know, got my master of sports in 2 different facets, and world records and all that kind of stuff. And it was literally just doing it and keeping going, you know. What
was the most challenging part for you when you got into kettlebell sport? Was it more, because I know you did a lot of conditioning with marathon training, but it is very different when all of a sudden you have a weight in your hand from there. Was it more of the strength piece? Was it the conditioning piece? Was it the mental piece of keeping it going for so long?
For me, I think at the start it was mainly the strength. And I figured out pretty early on that I had a really strong mindset, which has really helped me over this past 10 years. So my mind was never the problem. My conditioning was good, but there's a big difference from running to kettlebell sport lifting. You know, it's chalk and cheese, really. You know, I mean, I got to the stage when I was lifting competitively in kettlebell sport that I could just go out and run a half marathon on a weekend and not even think about it. You know, just go out and run it on a Sunday as part of training. You know, so I mean, running for me was a day off. It was a recovery day. So kettlebell sport conditioning, I think, is some of the toughest in the world. You know, besides the sprinting, you know, skiing, I suppose, endurance skiing, but like it's so, especially long cycle, it's so attritional. It's so tough on the lungs.
Yeah.
But so that took a bit of a while to build that up to the 24s, you know, especially starting off. I remember that first 10 minutes was probably the toughest thing I ever done, ever. And I've done world records since in endurance, but that first 10 minutes was the toughest thing I ever done. And I figured out pretty much that, the reason it was tough, but my technique was poor. It wasn't because my cardio was bad. It wasn't because my mental strength was bad.
Right.
It was because my technique was poor. So what I needed to do was become more efficient. And then once I figured out the kinks or the weak links, mainly was with my cleans. My cleans, I was using too much arms instead of too much leg instead of legs and back. I was using my smaller muscles instead of my larger muscles. I wasn't able to relax in rack position or overhead. So my legs were starting to seize up. And once I started figuring out that it's not just grunt, it's about using your body as efficiently as possible and stacking your joints as efficiently as possible.
Yeah.
And that's when I started making massive strides, and kind of had almost like a meteoric rise through kettlebell sport after 2014. So I think I got 60 reps in 2014, and I came fourth in the worlds. And that was a top by one rep. It was like, oh my God, I was so close.
Oh
so
man,
close.
that's rough. Yeah.
So it was like, but I knew, and that was the reason. And even a Russian guy called Arseny Zernikov came up to me and was like, he said, you got good mobility. He said, you know, all that, but your cleans are terrible. And I was like, yeah, thanks, man.
Yeah.
Okay. But it was a harsh truth and needed to learn. I was like, yeah. So then I spent the next 12 months cleaning that up, forgive the pun, putting a lot of work into my cleans and getting them as efficient as I possibly could. And by again, delving deep, by messaging people, by asking, by going to workshops and figuring, and then you get a little, you know, every time you go to a workshop, get a little tip that you might have thought of before, especially when you go to the top.
Yeah. That's an interesting thing about technique, right? Because like if you do a set of 5 or a set of 10 and stuff, like it's hard to sometimes see where your technique might be off. So doing something like a challenge, like a 5-minute or a 10-minute test, every little tweak in your technique is going to be really important, because if it's a little bit off over a 10-minute time period, that's going to equate to every rep is a little bit more off.
Exactly. So I mean, if you're pulling too high in your cleans, maybe you're pulling 2 inches too high in your cleans, and you do that over a 10-minute set 60 times, like that's 100, you know, whatever, 20 inches or something higher, like almost 1.5 meters higher you're pulling that you didn't have to, you're exerting more energy. If you're not relaxing your legs for 1 or 2 seconds a rep, or if you are relaxing your legs 1 or 2 seconds a rep over 60 reps, that's like 120 seconds that your legs are fully relaxed in a 10-minute set. So that's 2 minutes out of 10 minutes. That's a 50-year set that your legs are relaxed where they weren't before. So it's like all these little 1% all add up, like I said, when you start getting up through heavier bells, when you start going up through the time, you know. So that's when you figure out what your weaklings are pretty damn quickly, because at 5 or 10 reps, that's nothing, you know. So but go and do 30 reps or 50 reps, and then you'll see pretty quickly what part of my clean or jerk or snatch, what part is getting sore, what part is fatiguing quicker, and then you can figure out what you need to work on, you know.
Yeah, I think it's such a great message for working on technique, because I think technique it's very important. If you're doing general training, like it's important, but you also need to focus and build your strength at the same time. Sometimes you just need to get stronger. But one of the best things to figure out if your technique is on point or not is to put yourself in a challenge type position. That's going to reveal it as fast as possible. So I think it is. It's a phenomenal message that you had. So you've done the master sport, you've done the 10-minute test, but then I know you did some marathon-based training with kettlebell work as well. Where, correct me if I'm wrong, but this was 2 hours that you went in the long cycle. Is that right?
Yeah, this is probably the thing I'm most proud of. For me, when I started writing that book on mobility and efficiency of technique, I was like, how can I show people that I'm not putting the wool over their eyes? You know, what's the best way of doing this? So it's like, let's try something that's never been done before. So there was a 2-hour marathon fundraiser for the Irish team being held a couple of years ago, and it was a 1 bell event, you know. So I was thinking to myself, what if I done this with 2 bells, you know? And people are telling me it's impossible. It's never been done with 2 bells, and I don't think anybody could do it. I was like, that's great. That's all. That's all the motivation I need. I'm going to So at that time, I was also competing for Ireland at the marathon, kettlebell marathon, which is 220s, 220 kilo kettlebells for 30 minutes. And I was competing for Ireland in that. So I was doing long sets on 16s, like 1 hour sets on 16s as part of training. Every now and again, I'd throw in a 16-minute set on the 2 16s, which in itself is a pretty decent thing to do, you know? So, but I was like, I think I could do this with the 2 bells. So I really concentrated on getting as efficient as possible. At that stage, my technique was pretty tight anyway. And from then it was just cardio endurance, you know, and mental strength, because when you're doing anything like that, like the first thing that's going to give up is your head, you know,
right.
Especially when you're doing something that's never been done before. There's no roadmap. There's no one to tell you how to train for it. You just have to go out and see can you do it. So I got up to a 90-minute set in the gym, and I had friends along with me helping me chalk my hands and giving me a drink every now and again. But I mean, once you pick those kettlebells up at the first second, you can't put them down again for 2 hours, you know, and it's clean and jerk non-stop for 2 hours. And the only rest position, resting your kettlebells on your body, or resting them over your head in the rack position. So I think I said that as a feat, that will show people that what I'm telling them is going to work. If you're working your efficiency, you can just keep lifting. So lo and behold, the day came and nerves were there and all that. But I went up and in the middle of a shopping centre up in the middle of the country in Portlaoise, along with my other single kettlebell lifters who were there, we done the 2-hour set. And it was amazing because it has never been done before. You know, since it hasn't even been attempted since. So like, it's nice to say out of everybody in the whole world, this little guy who works in a shop in Ireland, in Waterford, has done something that no one else in the world has done. You know, so it's really, really proud moment for me to say that you can do something like that. You know, and I really think it showcased that like efficiency and flow and breathing and mobility are the key, you know, in long cycle training.
Yeah, it's what I was thinking of hearing that is like, I mean, the strength piece of it itself is an accomplishment, but to stay focused for that long in that must have been so challenging.
Oh, I mean, it's a long time. I mean, there is a, in the marathon world, there's the men's amateur is 2:16 for 30 minutes. And there's only a few people have done that in the world, you know, not many, maybe about 10 or 12.
Yeah.
And it's an achievement to get it. You know, there's been a couple of women do it as well, and they're phenomenal women.
Yeah.
But I mean, the mentally, it's the thing. Mentally is the killer because you're standing in the one spot, you know, you're doing the same lift over and over and over again, you know, and there's nothing to distract you, you know, you know, there's nothing to, it's just you know, you've no teammates, it's just you doing it, you know, so you really had to build like an iron will, really temper the steel, you know, kind of become like a more distilled, kind of more potent version of yourself, you know, and just have belief in your technique and have belief in yourself and keep being your own cheerleader and just keep doing it. Because I mean, once you got to 30 minutes, you're like, that was great, but like I'm only quarter the way through now.
Right.
This is where people stop generally, you know, this is the stopping point, 30 minutes. You're like, I'm only starting, only warming up.
Yeah.
And those major milestones were tough. I mean, getting to 60 minutes was tough because, again, there's probably only a handful of people that have done 60 minutes in the world, you know, with 2:16s. I'm like, okay, I'm here at this point now. I'm feeling pretty tired. I'm outside of my comfort zone. I'm not in my gym. I'm out in the middle of a shopping centre in the middle of the country. I have to drive up there. I'm dehydrated. And I'm starting to, the skin of my hand was starting to get kind of all sore.
Right.
Because the place was warm and it was a warm day and, you know, you're nervous, you're more nervous. I had official judges there, like I had a team of judges. I had 8 judges judge me for 15-minute sections, you know, whatever, 20-minute sections. Because like you couldn't have asked someone to sit there.
Right, exactly.
every rep was being judged. So I mean, and if I made any mistake, there would have been a no count. If I got enough no counts, it would have been a no lift. So there was a lot more pressure on it than it would be just doing it in the gym. So 16 minutes was tough. I remember at 16 minutes, the chalk was just turning into soap in my hands. I was starting to pull a bit of skin in my hands. I was like, oh God, I got another 16 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, how am I going to do this? And I just had 16 minutes, a big lump of skin came up my palm. I was like, you know, I was like, this is hard, but it was just keep going minute by minute, one at a time, one lift at a time, just keep going. And then once you got to like 75 and then you got to 90, I mean, at 90 minutes I was like, I have this now. It's only 30 minutes left, you know?
Yeah.
30 minutes, got the 30 minutes, got the 15 minutes, and the final 10 minutes was like the victory lap for me almost. And there's lots of people out there who their main goal is to get the 10 minutes on 2:16s. You know, that's their goal. To get to that 10 minutes is a massive achievement. I'm like, I've only 10 minutes left.
Right. I've just done 110. I can get another 10.
I'm nearly there, you know, and just get that last rep. And there's a picture of me out there just lifting that last rep. And it was just one of the most euphoric moments, I think, in my life. Just that I can't believe it's over. I can't believe I've done it. It's amazing. So that was absolutely amazing, you know. And I can still see it. I can still feel it. But I'm talking about.
Sure. I'm getting chills just listening to the story of it, David, on this, because from the physical side, as I said, like, absolutely, I think that's phenomenal. But on the mental side of everything that could go through your head in your mind, it's like, because a lot of people, like, I mean, there's such this like tough mindset, like overcome, just battle it through. But over a 2-hour block, like, you have to, I would think that, like, those those thoughts of just doubt just naturally come into your head. Just be like, what the hell am I doing? Like, I could put these down. It's fine. I could do. It's like, no, just do it again. So it seemed like around that 60-minute mark, it was just like, all right, just 1 more minute at a time. I could just get the 1 minute at a time.
That was the toughest part, because you like when you got to 60, it was like, this is already a pretty decent achievement, but you're only halfway there. You know, you still have another full 60 minutes to go. You know, it's like when I ran the marathon, like when you're in the first half marathon, it's like, okay, I'm feeling tired now, and I still got another half to go. It was that same kind of feeling I got. It kind of almost brought me back to that first run. So it was like, and I started thinking to myself, like, I've done that, you know, so I can do this as well. So like I said, then it just went minute by minute after that. But yeah, man, it was just so awesome to do. Still nobody has done it. Like, I done that in 2018. Nobody else in the world has done it. And like, it's 634 reps in a row.
I was going to ask, how many total reps did you get in that time?
634. So I mean, works out probably about 5 or 6 RPM. You know, so like 1 rep every 10 seconds, just clean the jerk. You know, and then just clean jerk nonstop. You know, so 634 is still that world record, and I hope somebody will do it. I know they will. At some stage, somebody will get this mad motion to do it, and I'm sure they'll beat me, because there's plenty of guys out there who could do that almost in 60 minutes. Just the top athletes, I know for a fact, could get around 580, 600 reps in 60 minutes. But for me, it wasn't about the reps; it was more about the mental capacity to see, could I do it, and that was just that was it for me. That's everything in my life since then has been easy, you know. So I think when you do something like that, it kind of gives you a fresh perspective on life, really. You know, it's like, if I can do that, I can do pretty much anything, you know. So it's given me a real kind of clear outlook on life as well since that, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Well, it seems like you've kind of kept renewing this thought in a lot of different accomplishment, from doing the first marathon into the first time you jumped into a 10-minute, now going into, I mean, you went completely off the rails and went into a 2-hour marathon from there, which is, and I think it's just absolutely admirable. And I'm sure a million people be like, oh yeah, that's impossible and stuff. So just all the more reason to try and just do it. It kind of goes back to that same message you had. It's like, well, do your best, see what happens, you know, like, why not?
Exactly. See what happens. I mean, like, what's the worst can happen? You put it down. Okay, look, that's fine. You know, go do it again. You know, you're not hurting anybody. You're not in a competition. It's the only competition really is you know, yourself and how strong you are mentally. And I was really, really happy to come out of that one. Mentally unscathed. Anyway. So I was pretty physically scathed after. I tell you, my feet and my hands. Oh, Michael, the extremities are the worst. You know, feet and hands.
Yes. I'm sure the feet of just driving into the ground and just holding in, that is probably the worst.
The feet, like you're, you know, when you're doing a jerk, you know, you're bouncing up on your feet. So it's like doing a calf raise, like with 32 kilos extra in your body, like 634 times in a row. So you can imagine, so your feet, the balls of your feet on your calves. That's a lot of calf raises in a row. We'll do 100 with 216s anyway. You tell me how you feel after. But and then the hands, just from the chalk and the sweat and the grip and the blood and all that goes with it. But like I said, those heal, those go away. But
it's interesting. I remember I talked a while ago with Megan Kelly from the UK, who did the world record in I think it was, and forgive me, Megan, if I get this wrong, but it swings in an hour, the most amount of weight swings. And she was doing 32K swings. So on the minute, 10, 12 reps for the full hour, you know, from there. And she talked about like those times, just the hand rips. And like, that's when it's like that, it's almost like that fight or flight in the mind of comes in. It's just like, you're not going to go through this unscathed. It's like, you know, that there's going to be times during these, if you do anything for 30 minutes, a marathon for 30 minutes is enough for only a handful of people to want to attempt, let alone actually fully accomplish from there. Add that times 4. Yeah, you're going to go through some shit during this time. So
I've had people like since kind of saying, oh, your technique must have been bad because your hands are ripping. I'm like, look, man, you don't understand. You know, you've never done it. You know, I pride myself on my technique being, I wouldn't say flawless, but very, very good. You know, very, very efficient. I put a lot of time and reps in, hundreds of thousands of reps in. But it's like when you're running an ultra marathon, you're never going to not get bunions or cuts or scrapes, or, you know, when you do any like long endurance event, there's going to be collateral damage, you know. That's just part of it. Just
as the guy on the couch is telling you what you're doing wrong with your technique.
Every day of the week.
Yeah, we do a little bit in that culture. So now, I mean, I've seen you've done a lot of work now, kind of moving into stone lifting, which is kind of a completely different modality of, I mean, that's one heavy rep at a time, you know, versus, you know, the lightweight from there. What got you into that world and wanted to go into stone lifting?
It was mad, because I mean, I set myself these goals, Michael, at the start of my GS journey. And I said I wanted to get, master sports. Like I said, I wanted to win a European title, win a world title, I wanted to get my master sports in marathon and in this, and I wanted to do a world record. And I'd just done all that in 2018. And I was kind of like, what am I going to do now? I was like, I'd actually retired from kettlebell sport at that time, officially retired. I said, look, thanks for the memories. I've hit everything I wanted to hit. I'm going to move on and do something else. I was like, what am I going to do now? And then COVID struck. And I was like, okay, now I have no access to my gym. I have no access to any equipment, so what the hell am I going to do now? I have a few kettlebells at the back, so I was just doing some hardstyle stuff, just doing some strength work with those. But then my wife has this beautiful stone carving out in the back garden on a plinth. And I met her in art college. She's this beautiful stone that she had carved into this lovely artistic piece. And I was looking at it there one day going, ooh, that looks nice. I wonder what weight that is. Yeah. So I picked it up and put it on the scale. It was like 60 kilos. I was like, oh, I can do something with this. So I started off just doing lifts with that. And just to necessity, because I didn't have anything else, So it was just through COVID, I was like, I had to kind of make do with what I had. So I started picking up this 60 kilo stone. And I was like, oh, that's a decent weight, you're picking it up off the floor. It's not a calibrated weight, it's awkward, it's tough. It's got its own center of gravity, you have to figure that out. I just started getting hooked on the stone lifting because of that. I was like, okay. So then I was like, okay, what can I do with this? Can I get this up on my shoulder? First of all, I could barely lap it. I could barely pick it up off the ground, even though I thought myself pretty strong at this stage. Like a stone lift is a totally different thing than like a barbell lift. It's so different, Yeah. So suddenly I started that 60 kilo after a couple of weeks and months, started feeling light. And then friends of mine were digging up their wall or the back garden, and they get these big boulders. Like, hey, Dave, I've seen you training online. I got a couple of big boulders. I'm after digging them out of the ground. Lovely. I said, drop them over. So there's guys then just dropping rocks over to my house every couple of weeks. Oh my God. Sick. Here's more rocks coming in. The back garden is just full of rocks. But I was weighing them like they were 80 kilo, 90 kilo. And all of a sudden, like, this is good training. I'm really enjoying this. And then the main thing for me was the Rogue documentary came out on STONELAND, the STONELAND Rogue documentary, which I'm sure you've seen it. I have
my friend Sven, who's been on a few times, who's going for the Denis stones soon. Hopefully by the time this airs, he'll have accomplished it from there. But he told me about this documentary, and there's something that is so just almost ingrained in our human psyche of stone lifting that you can't, it's one of those things like you can't understand until you get into it. There is something to it.
It's just incredible. And I started looking at this documentary, and the Scots, like, who'd be our cousins, really. Like, the Scots and the Irish are practically the same people, they're just over there. You know what I mean? So we've got a natural affinity anyway. And I was like looking at these guys, and these clan guys had their test of strength, or their test to become a man was to lift this stone, and every glen had its own stone, and I just loved the history of it. I was like, okay, back 600 to 800 years ago, there was guys lifting this stone in this glen, surrounded by their family and friends. And to lift the stone to chest was one of the tests to become a man, Yes. And I was like, I love this. I absolutely love this. So I started then training to go to Scotland to do these stones. And I went out to, there's a beach down 15 minutes from me called Benvoy Beach. And I went and I found these absolutely beautiful boulders out there, which I weighed since like 115, 130, 140, 145 kilo stones. I brought out a crane scale and ropes and weighed them. Yep. And I started training on those twice a week, just going out to the beach. And I'm out at the beach. It's just me. There's a small little cove here on the southeast coast. There's never anybody there. It's a tiny little cove, maybe about 100 feet long. And it's just me and the sea and the rocks. And this is my gym. And I'm like, this is incredible. This is amazing. It's free. It's soul enriching, and I'm absolutely loving it. And I'm getting wicked strong from it as well, So I done about 8 months of that, and I went over to Scotland. Michael, it was one of the best experiences of my life. But just driving over to Scotland with friends in a camper van, and we went over, and I met a guy called Jamie Gorrian, and Jamie has seen me online training. He was like, I do stone lifting, and all of a sudden, this guy's like one of the most renowned guys in the world. Mm-hmm. And Jamie was like, I'll meet you when you come over. So I met Jamie on the Saturday, and he took me around 14 clans, manhood stones. On the Saturday, I was over there in Scotland, in the lower Highlands. And it was amazing. We done like the Pewter Rock stone, we done the Malachile stone, we done the Sheriff Muir stones, we done the Ardvarlich stone, but the main one for me was the Fianna stone, because in Ireland, I'm sorry I'm talking a lot, but this is just me.
No, I love it, yeah.
In Ireland, we have the old warrior band called the Fianna, or the Fianna, who were warriors, like very, very prominent warriors back in the day, maybe about 1,000 or 1,500 years ago. And there's still, like, we were taught tales of Fianna and Fionn McCool and all these guys in school growing up. And I was like, are you telling me that there's a Fianna stone? So to become a Fianna warrior, you have to lift that stone, and that's sitting in Scotland. It's like, I gotta go get this. I gotta go lift this, you know? Because, like, I was brought up on Fianna, and like, it was just a part of my life, my culture.
Yeah.
So it was like, and huge admiration for the guys, warrior poets, just awesome guys. Think samurai, think the Irish samurais, so forth. So up I went. Jamie took me the last stone of the day, the 14th. So at this time I was pretty damn tired. We got to this stone, and I remember seeing it in the STONELAND documentary, and we just drove up to it, and I was like, this is going to happen. I know this, you know. Yeah. It's 127 kilos of dolerite. It's shaped almost like this kind of a shape, like a rounded kind of pyramid shape. And we took it off the plinth, and I said, look, what's the best way of lifting this, or what's the most traditional way? Well, he said it's a kilt walk, so maybe 8 to 10 feet away from the plinth, pick it up and bring it into the plinth. So I did it, and it was like, that was just such a cool experience. I mean, even to put your hands onto this, like 1,000 years ago, Fianna warriors were using this exact stone to do this, become a warrior. And like, I'm now doing the same thing, you know?
Yeah.
And there's a tale that if you could do that, if you go on Fianna warrior, you could lift the what's called the Spear of Morgan. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, and you could become a Fianna warrior. So it's like, that was just absolutely awesome. You know, I literally got in physical touch with my roots, with my ancestors. It was like mythology and history and ancestry and everything come together in real life. And it was just absolutely amazing. So I've been hooked on it ever since. Mm-hmm. And that's just been my training. And like, there's so many stones around Scotland now. There's about 35. I lifted 14 or 16 of them over there. So I'm going to go back and do another tour. And I'm starting to actually, myself, I'm starting to find the culture in Ireland very deep. But I'm finding ancient Irish stones of strength, which I never thought were a thing, and no one ever thought were a thing.
Yeah.
I found the very first one about 6 months ago in an island just off the coast of Galway, a place called the Aran Islands. And through a lot of research and old tales and talking to locals and stuff, I found, there's a stone down there that was being lifted maybe about 1,500 to 2,000 years ago. It's still being lifted up until relatively recently, maybe about 70 years ago, by the men of the island. And this was a test of strength or a test of social status on the island. And I was like, are you kidding me? I was like, yeah. So it's like, it's still there. So we went over, me and my friends, we went over on the boat over to the Aran Islands and hunted around and found the stone, which was called the Moulin Port Vale and Doon, which weighs 171 kilos. And it's the first Irish traditional stone we found in history. And I found it 6 months ago. And I have another 2 online that I'm going up to find in 2 weeks' time, and another one of the islands, again, by talking to locals. And I'm starting to unearth this whole history in Ireland as well. So I'm like, this is just absolutely awesome, you know, and this is kind of my mission at the moment.
Yeah, this is your next book right here. This is absolutely, it is the stone lifting thing with the history of it. And
the history is the thing that grabs.
But it's this rite of passage that old cultures used to have that would like determine, I think it was a story, I forget who told it might have been Sven, but how that was like an old custom where if you wanted to marry, a woman, that you had to prove to her father that you were a man and you have to lift a stone and go. It was like this rite of passage. It was where now it's like, I think where we don't have that as much now, especially in the American culture, where it's like fitness is aesthetics. It's like a personal type thing, which I'm all for it and stuff. But these things of like rite of passage where you're almost a part of the tribe, you're part of that community, where there's this sense of belonging once you do this, that you have to work your way to it and go through something very challenging. I think that's really like kind of the big message behind it is from GS Sport. It's like you meet people around there that you go through a challenging thing with them. With the stone lifting, if you lifted that stone that thousands of years ago, other people that were doing the same exact thing that you were doing, like that's such a beautiful lineage and a connection of strength right there. I just think that's absolutely gorgeous.
It's incredible. And like I said, like you're physically in touch with history. You're not talking about it or reading about it In a book, you're actually putting your hands on it, and that's what grabbed me straight away. It's like, and especially with the likes of the Fina stone, but I'd say the Pewter Rock stone and all these Scottish stones. And now the fact that I'm finding it in Ireland, I'm like, this is my culture. And we were doing it here as well. And like, we're probably doing it everywhere, but I mean, it's been very deep, but I mean, I'm starting to unearth it. And the more I'm talking about it, the more people are kind of getting on to me about it. Oh, yeah, I think there's one up here, or I think there's one here. Mm-hmm. So this was a thing. Like this, there wasn't such thing as a gym or strength, or just not strength, but no such thing as a gym or calibration. It was like, this was the thing. This was the stones were that that was your proof of a man. Could you do that?
Yeah.
It's prevalent in the likes of the Icelandic, the Scandinavian countries as well. I've got great tales in the likes of Iceland and Norway and Sweden and all these guys doing all this as well. And there's guys in the islands of Tonga and Hawaii also doing this as well.
Yes.
And there's guys starting to do it over in America. They're refinding like older stones, but they're starting the tradition over there as well. It's like Utah. The Utah stones are strengthening our thing.
Yeah.
They're on the world map. And I think it's like you said, people are hungry for connection, and they're hungry for, like I said, these rights, because we've lost our way a little bit, in strength. It's kind of a little bit more aesthetic, but it's like you're losing.
Surface level. Yeah. It's very surface level type stuff. This is like, there's a deep connection to it.
It's very hard to explain it until you actually go do it. And, you meet people who are as passionate as you about it, or more so, I mean, I've met like Martin Jansitz from the STONELAND documentary as well. I went up and lifted the Braven stone with him, and he's like, look, man, the stories about this, I mean, this stone's been lifted here for like 600 to 800 years, and he was naming all the greats like Bill Kazmaier, Big Laws, all these guys who've been lifting the stone, like the likes of the Stoneman brothers. And he said, look, all these guys have laid hands on this, so I mean, that has to mean something. They're like going all the way back through history, all the people who lifted it. It's just that connection that you have. You almost have like a physical connection to these people through that, and there's a mark of respect for anybody who does it, because like lifting a stone off the ground isn't easy. A stone wants to be there. He's quite happy on the ground.
Exactly. It has nothing else to do except to stay around the ground.
It's quite happy there.
Yeah.
But I mean, and the way I explain to people is like, if you put like 115 kilos on a bar, you pick it up with one hand in a deadlift,
Yeah.
Definitely, you pick it up with two hands, easy, get it over your head. But I mean, go out and pick up 115 kilo stone and tell me what easy it is.
Yeah.
It's a totally different experience.
Yeah.
And like the guys in the Arnold's and all these guys, like these guys are lifting 400 to 450 kilos in a deadlift in competition. But the stone they lift is called the Bill Odden stone, which is 186 kilos. And there's a lot of them guys can't even pick that thing off the ground.
Yeah.
But yet they can lift 2.5 times that in a deadlift, which is a similar movement.
Yes.
So it's like,
yeah. But it is like, because everything's so balanced and even on a barbell. Still, I mean, you lift 400 kilos. I'm not going to say anything about your strength. You are doing everything that you need to. But that's something different with the stone, where it's like, you don't know where that weight is distributed. It could be more on one side versus another. Yeah. It's just different. There's a connection to nature feel that almost comes with it, where it's not this organized aspect of it where everything's set. It's like, no, just go and pick it up and lift it, figure it out. It's like, and just work through it. And that's like the theme here of, I think, this conversation is just get into it and just figure it out. You'll find your way in there. And that's something from stone lifting that I've seen, from connecting with others, from doing just on some hikes that I've worked with as well. There is something that there's a deeper connection, to it than just, I want to lose 20 pounds or I want to lift this weight or so. It's like, there's something that gets deep. It gets deep into, exactly. Yeah.
It's like, I mean, I go out and I lift these stones now and I have them weighed and named. And I've had people come from all over the world to lift these stones now in my beach, in my cove that I live in. I call them the Ben Voy stones. But there's something about it. Like, I mean, you're out, you're lifting, like I said before, you're in nature, you're immersed in nature. It's just you. And it's just you against like the bones of man versus the bones of the earth, and there's something primal about that. And it's a beautiful feeling when you manage to do something, like, especially a stone you might have lifted before, you manage to get that thing up the lap, up the chest. It's such a sense of accomplishment. And it's, like I said, it's part of, deeply ingrained in, I think, in who we are, all the way back through Greek culture, all the way back. You'll see people lifting stones, Yeah. And it's just this old school way of training. that I just love it. I just absolutely love the feel you get from it. And I'd encourage anybody, just go out and try it and see what you think, Anybody into the strength world, just even start off small, start off from me, 40, 50, 60 kilos and see what you think of it and give it a go, and tell me what you think, because it's an awesome thing.
Yeah. And I think it's something about just putting yourself in a challenge of like a test of strength, and there's a lot of different ways you can do it. I mean, you started it with the marathon, very different from stone lifting, but it's kind of the same. It's the same thing. There's a finish to it. And I think it's an important thing. I remember I talked with Danny Casey from New York Weightlifting, and he encourages all of his clients, regardless of whether they're top level or just getting started, to go into a weightlifting competition just to feel the energy behind it. There's a community, there's a camaraderie to it, and there's a deeper sense and a deeper feeling to it. And if you add that into everything else that you're doing as far as your training, it's going to go that much further. It's going to ingrain you. It's going to build you through those times that are more challenging when maybe you don't feel like doing it. It's like, you have 2 16s in your hands for 2 hours. I'm sure there's times that you did not want to keep doing that, but you find that way to get through it. And then you come out stronger in the end. Exactly.
Like I said, sense of camaraderie is very important, especially in the beginning of training, so that's where the likes of these running competitions, you have people that they're all suffering the same as you. We're all trying to get to the same goal. There's great, it's like camaraderie along the way. If you're starting to fail, people will help you along, or there's always kind of a few words of encouragement. Same thing with kettlebell sport. I mean, you're in kettlebell sport, you're there on a platform, everybody knows how tough it is, whether you're doing 10 minutes, 30 minutes or 120 minutes. People know how tough it is, or they don't, but they can pretty much gather, how tough it is. And there's that whole sense of, we're all struggling, but we're going to do it together. And, it's a beautiful feeling when you go to these comps. I mean, I know people who, that's why I got hooked on kettlebell sports as well. You go to these world competitions, you meet people from all over the world who are into the same thing as you. You're meeting different cultures, and no matter what your culture is, even if they can't speak English, they understand you because they understand the processes you're going through to get to here. So there's a huge level of respect and mutual respect there, which is beautiful. And now it's the same thing with stone training. I'm meeting powerlifting guys. I went on the stone lifting with 2 competing Scottish powerlifters, 6'4" and 6'3", 140 kilos, 120 kilos, and here's me 5'9". 85, 86 kilos. And these guys, but yet they were like, come on, man, you can do it. And
absolutely.
That stuff really, really works, really helps. And that sense of camaraderie is awesome. So like I said, I would agree with the gentleman you were speaking about, even at a low level, or even just go as a spectator first, see what you think of it. You know what I mean? And just the energy in the room, it's not something that you can replicate in the gym. You just can't do it.
No doubt. So David, this has been so much fun talking to you. I really appreciate your time. Your story of everything you've done over the past decade is so inspiring, from, from running into all the work in the GS into everything that you're doing now. So keep doing you, brother. This has been awesome.
Man, I could talk to you all day. This was fantastic. And thank you so much for having me on, Mike. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. If people want to follow your journey more and kind of see what you're doing, what's the best place that they can follow you?
Yeah, so hit me up on Facebook. I'm just David Keohan, that's Keohan, or I'm down as Irish Move Athlete on Instagram. That's my handle on Instagram. So just give me a friend and we'll have a chat if you ever want to have a talk about suffering in any way. I'm good for it, between the cardio, the strength endurance and the pure strength. You just want to have a chat about that, I'm there, man. So look, thank you so much again, Michael, for having me here.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much, Dave. We'll have to do this again. I feel like this time flew by too quick. So
everybody starts this out.
Exactly.
See you, man.
Listeners, thank you so much for connecting. Catch you on the next one. See ya.
Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you found some great value here. And if you like this episode, please drop a comment and leave us a 5-star rating and review. It does more to build the show than you can imagine. And do not forget to check out and join the Strength Connection Facebook group. In this group, I share the biggest takeaways and lessons from these amazing conversations, as well as training and strength tips for pursuing mastery and fulfillment in life. This group is filled with individuals looking to take full control over their strength, and it's the perfect space to explore new ideas and to share your journey. And you'll also get exclusive access to these Strength Connection Mastery Seminars. It's a deep dive into the physical, mental, and spiritual training that you can begin using immediately. So do not wait, go now. Seriously, go. All right, much love to you. Thank you so much, and I'll catch you on the next one.